Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a breath together. In and out. Now close your eyes for a moment, not to escape the world, but to enter the one that matters most, the world within. You see, we've been taught from a young age to believe that fulfillment lies outside of us, in the noise, in the crowd, in validation, in relationships that keep us company but not always keep us aligned. But today, I want to offer you something different, something radical. Well, something ancient and yet desperately needed in our modern world. Living alone feels good. And not because solitude is an escape from people, but because solitude is a reunion with yourself. You aren't just a name, a job, a partner, a son or daughter. Your consciousness, an energy field wrapped in a body, driven by thoughts, shaped by emotions, and connected to something far beyond the visible spectrum. Now here's what happens when we begin to live alone. We stop distracting ourselves from ourselves. The noise fades, the mirror clears. And we come face to face with the raw material of our being. In that silence, we begin to listen to the subtle rhythms of intuition, to the quiet voice of higher intelligence, to the whisper that says, "You are more than you think you are." When we live alone, the nervous system calms. We no longer have to perform, please react. We shift from survival to creation, from reacting to old patterns to designing new realities. You begin waking up with energy, not because someone texted you back, but because you remembered who you are, and who you are is not your past. You are not your pain. You are not your stories. You are a field of potential, a consciousness capable of reprogramming itself at will. And science now confirms this. When you're alone, your brain is no longer constantly filtering external noise. Your prefrontal cortex, the seat of conscious creation, lights up. Your body, once trapped in emotional addiction to drama and stimulation, begins to detox. The heart rate lowers. Cortisol drops. Your brain and heart begin to sync. And in that state, you don't feel lonely. You feel liberated. Because now, you're not chasing love, you're becoming it. You're not waiting for peace, you're emitting it. You're not begging for joy, embodying it. And that's the magic. You see, the purpose of solitude isn't isolation. It's integration. It's not about cutting people out, it's about cutting through illusions. When you learn to be alone, and I mean truly vibrationally alone, you become magnetic. Not because you need someone, but because you no longer do. And when you don't need, when you're no longer addicted to external validation, you become the creator of your life, not the echo of someone else's. That's when the universe responds. It brings you people who match your frequency. It brings opportunities that align with your energy. Because now you're not broadcasting desperation. You're radiating coherence, stillness, power. So if you're living alone right now, or if you feel called to step into that space, don't resist it. Celebrate it. Because this is not emptiness. This is space for expansion. This is not isolation. This is preparation. This is not loneliness. This is alignment. And when you align with the truth of who you are, when you remember your ability to tune your own energy, rewire your own mind, and open your own heart, you'll see why living alone feels so good. Not because it's easy, but because it sets you free. Thank you, solitude is often misunderstood. In a society that glorifies busyness and constant connection, being alone is too frequently equated with being lonely. But solitude is not loneliness. It is presence without distraction. It is the moment when you no longer need the noise of the world to feel complete. When you are truly alone, you meet yourself in the purest form, without filters, without performance, without roles. It is in that space of quietude that real transformation begins. The beauty of solitude lies in the shift from external validation to internal awareness. You start to notice the way your thoughts behave, the patterns they follow, and how often your identity has been shaped by other people's expectations. Solitude offers you a sacred space where the mind slows down enough to be observed, where the inner dialogue becomes clear, and where your nervous system begins to relax. There is no performance here, just being, just presence, and presence is power. The brain, when not bombarded by outside stimuli, begins to operate differently. Neural pathways that were once locked in survival mode, always reacting, defending, anticipating, start to soften. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for focus, creativity, and decision-making, becomes more active. You become aware of your own energy signature, your own emotional patterns, and the way your body responds to peace. This awareness leads to coherence, a state in which your mind, body and emotions begin to work together instead of in conflict. When you're in solitude, the body begins to reset. Your stress hormones reduce, your heart rhythm balances, your breath deepens, and most importantly, your intuition strengthens. You begin to feel again, not just react. You become sensitive to energy, to thought, to the subtle nudges of your higher self. In this space, inspiration rises not from pressure, but from stillness. Ideas come not from fear, but from freedom. Solitude is not a retreat from life. It is a return to your original frequency. It allows you to realign with your inner world, to make decisions from clarity instead of chaos. In the silence of being alone, you reconnect with your personal truth, and you begin to realize that peace is not something to be found. It is something to be remembered. Alignment is the invisible thread that weaves our thoughts, emotions, and actions into coherence. It is the inner calibration that occurs when what you think, what you feel, and what you do are all moving in the same direction. When you are in alignment, there is no resistance, only flow. You are not trying to force outcomes or manipulate circumstances. Instead, you become a living embodiment of clarity. In this state, you stop chasing things and start attracting them because your internal state is in harmony with the reality you are choosing to create. The process of alignment begins with awareness. You begin to notice when your thoughts betray your desires, when your emotions contradict your vision, and when your actions don't reflect the life you say you want. These misalignments create internal friction, stress, confusion, and ultimately, stagnation. But once you become aware of them, you have the power to shift. You begin to observe where you're out of sync and gently bring yourself back into balance, not through force, but through presence. When the mind and body are aligned, there is physiological proof. The heart and brain begin to sync. Your body starts producing chemicals that support regeneration instead of stress. You feel lighter, clearer, and more energized, not because the outer world has changed, but because your inner frequency has risen. You stop being reactive and start becoming intentional. Life begins to respond to you differently, not because of luck or chance, but because you've become energetically aligned with your vision. Alignment is not about perfection. It's about consistency and truth. It's about making small internal adjustments throughout the day, catching the thought that doesn't serve you, realigning the emotion that pulls you backward, adjusting your posture, your breath, your tone, until your entire being is congruent with your purpose. This creates integrity, not just moral, but energetic, and that integrity becomes magnetism. People, experiences, and synchronicities begin to meet you on the path, not because you forced them, but because they were already there, waiting for you to match them. When you are aligned, your energy speaks before you do. Your presence carries information. Your intention becomes directive. You begin to walk into rooms and shift them, not by saying more, but by being more. Energy is the fundamental currency of all creation. It exists before form, before matter, before thought itself. Everything you do, everything you think, and everything you feel is an exchange of energy. Whether you're aware of it or not, you are constantly broadcasting an energetic signal into the field around you. That signal carries information about your beliefs, your emotional state, your intentions, and the universe responds to that frequency with experiences that match it. This isn't philosophy. This is physics. Your life is not just happening to you. It's responding to the energy you emit. Most people spend their days unconscious of their energy. They wake up and immediately fall into old emotional patterns. Stress, anxiety, fear, guilt. These are low-frequency states that trap the body in survival mode, shutting down higher centers of the brain and weakening the electromagnetic field of the heart. In this state, you become reactive. You chase, you push, you grasp, but nothing feels aligned. That's because the energy you're radiating is rooted in the past, not in possibility. But the moment you begin to regulate your energy, you begin to change your life. When you sit in stillness and consciously shift your emotional state, when you choose gratitude, compassion, or joy without needing an external reason, you are changing your frequency. You are conditioning your body to a new future rather than being addicted to the emotions of your past. That is how real change begins, not by changing the world, but by changing your energy. Your energy speaks louder than your words. It is felt before it is seen. When you walk into a room with a coherent field, when your heart and mind are in harmony, people feel it. Animals feel it. The environment begins to interact with you differently. That is not coincidence. It is coherence in action. It is the natural result of tuning your inner world before expecting anything from the outer one. To manage your energy is to manage your life. It requires discipline, presence, and deep self-awareness. It's about becoming the observer of your triggers, the alchemist of your emotions, and the architect of your vibration. When you take full ownership of the energy you carry, you reclaim the power to shape reality, not through force but through frequency. Coherence is the state in which your mind and body move in harmony, where your thoughts, emotions, and physiological responses align into a unified signal. It is not merely a calm feeling or a peaceful moment. It is a measurable shift in your inner environment. When your brain waves synchronize with your heart rhythms, you enter into a state of flow, of alignment with the deeper intelligence that governs your body and the energy field surrounding you. This coherence creates clarity, resilience, and a deep sense of connectedness that transcends logic. Most people live in incoherence. Their hearts say one thing, their minds say another, and their actions pull them in a completely different direction. This split creates stress, confusion, and dissonance, not only in the body but in the external reality they continue to experience. The body becomes addicted to familiar emotions like worry, anger, or fear, and the brain mirrors those patterns through neural loops that reinforce old identities. And incoherence is what keeps you stuck in a cycle of repetition, reacting to life instead of creating it. But when you begin to intentionally create coherence, everything changes. Through practices like conscious breathing, meditation, focused attention, and emotional self-regulation, you can bring your nervous system into balance. The heart becomes more rhythmic, the brain becomes more organized, and the immune system becomes more efficient. This is not wishful thinking, it is science. Your body becomes a more powerful transmitter of coherent energy, and the field around you begins to reflect that signal. Coherence also enhances intuition. In a coherent state, you become more sensitive to subtle shifts in energy. You can sense when something is right or misaligned, not through analysis, but through resonance. You make decisions from a place of inner knowing rather than mental debate. That level of clarity is not the result of thinking harder. It is the result of becoming energetically aligned. Creating coherence requires practice. It means choosing elevated emotions over conditioned reactions. It means remembering who you are beneath the noise of the world. Each time you shift into coherence, you are training your body to trust a new future. You are rehearsing a new way of being. You are aligning with a field of intelligence that is always present, but only accessible when the signal you send is clear, strong, and unified. Consciousness is the essence of who you truly are, beyond the name, the body, and the story. It is the awareness behind your thoughts, the observer of your emotions, the presence that exists whether the world is calm or chaotic. You are not your circumstances, and you are not the mind that narrates them. You are the field of awareness in which all those things appear. When you begin to recognize this, you step out of unconscious patterns and into deliberate creation. Life is no longer something that happens to you. It becomes something that responds to the depth of your awareness. Most people move through life asleep in their roles, reacting to the environment, driven by habit, emotion, and memory. They are conditioned by the past, and because their attention remains fixed on what has already been, they unknowingly recreate it. Consciousness is the key that unlocks this loop. The moment you become aware of a thought, you are no longer just thinking, you are witnessing. And that witnessing is a form of liberation. It creates space between stimulus and response, allowing you to choose a new path instead of repeating the old one. To live consciously is to become intentional about where you place your attention. Attention is energy, and whatever you focus on expands. If your awareness is constantly hijacked by fear, judgment, or comparison, then those experiences become your reality. But when you shift your focus inward, toward your breath, your heartbeat, the silence between thoughts, you begin to reclaim your power. You stop living at the surface and begin to access the deeper layers of being where true change originates. Consciousness is not something you gain. It is something you remember. It has always been there, like the sky behind the clouds. It is spacious, aware, and deeply intelligent. When you begin to live from this space, your choices become cleaner, your energy becomes clearer, and your presence begins to influence the world around you without force. You begin to move through life with greater ease because you are no longer resisting what is. You are aware of it, accepting of it, and from that acceptance you are able to transform it. Living in consciousness doesn't mean escaping reality. It means entering it more fully with your eyes open and your energy attuned. It is the foundation upon which all inner work is built. Transformation is not something that happens outside of you. It begins within, in the unseen world of thoughts, emotions, and energy. It is not a single event, but a continuous unfolding. A shedding of who you thought you were so that you can become who you truly are. Real transformation is not surface-level change. It's not simply doing things differently. It's becoming someone new. In belief in frequency that leads to a completely different experience of reality. Most people try to change their lives by changing the things around them, jobs, relationships, routines, but they never address the inner programming that created those realities in the first place. They want a new outcome without changing the energy that attracts it. But transformation requires a radical level of honesty. It asks you to look at where you've been operating from fear, from unworthiness, from limitation. It calls you to confront the parts of yourself that you've suppressed, avoided, or judged, and bring them into awareness with compassion, not shame. At its core, transformation is energetic. You are made of energy, and your emotional state is the signal you send to the field. If you want a new life, you must tune to a new emotional frequency. You must learn to feel elevated emotions, gratitude, joy, love, before your external world gives you a reason to. That is how you signal to the universe that you are no longer living from the past. You are rehearsing a new future. Transformation happens when you stop identifying with your old story. When you stop defining yourself by what happened, and instead begin to align with what is possible. This requires consistency. It requires getting up each day and choosing to become the person your future requires. Not waiting for change to come, but embodying it now, feeling it now, living it now. You know transformation is happening when your inner world becomes more important than your outer world. When you no longer need circumstances to change for you to feel peace. When the unknown no longer feels like a threat, but an invitation. In that space, you stop trying to fix the old and instead begin creating the new. You become a new signal, a new vibration. And the universe responds, not to what you want, but to what you are. Frequency is the language of the universe. Everything in existence is vibrating at a specific rate. Every thought, every emotion, every atom of your body. Your frequency is the energetic signature you emit, moment by moment, based on the quality of your thoughts and feelings. It determines what you attract, how you feel, and how the world responds to you. You don't see it with your eyes, but it shapes your entire experience. It is not a metaphor. It is measurable, real, and constantly changing based on where you place your attention. When you live in low-frequency states like fear, shame, guilt, or stress, your energy becomes dense and incoherent. Your body tightens, your thoughts loop, and your ability to access intuition and creativity diminishes. You move into survival mode, and your perception of reality narrows. Life feels heavy, uncertain, or even chaotic, not because life itself is punishing you, but because you are broadcasting a signal that matches limitation. The frequency you emit is like a magnet, drawing to you people, situations, and experiences that reinforce your current of being, state 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 of being. But the moment you begin to elevate your emotional state, your frequency shifts. When you intentionally generate emotions like gratitude, love, joy, or awe, your body begins to tune itself to a new signal. The heart's rhythm becomes coherent, the brainwaves synchronize, and you begin to tap into higher levels of awareness. In this elevated state, you're not reacting, you're creating. You become more open, more receptive, and more aligned with opportunities that match your new vibration. Raising your frequency is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about consciously choosing where to direct your energy, despite your circumstances. It means becoming aware of the internal environment you live in and taking full responsibility for shifting it. This is where true empowerment lies, not in changing what's outside of you, but in mastering what's within. Your frequency is your message to the quantum field. It is your contribution to the collective energy we all live in. You are never invisible, never insignificant. Your energetic state is shaping reality with every breath you take. When you change your frequency, you are not escaping life. You are recalibrating how life meets you. You are stepping into a new dimension of experience that already exists, waiting for you to match it. Stillness is not the absence of activity. It is the presence of deep awareness. It is the space between thoughts, the silence underneath the noise, the calm that remains untouched, no matter how loud life becomes. In a world that rewards speed, productivity, and constant stimulation, stillness is a radical act. It is where the truth of who you are begins to emerge, not as a thought or an identity, but as a direct experience of presence. In stillness, you don't need to chase answers because you begin to remember that everything you've been searching for already lives within you. The human mind is addicted to movement, endless thinking, planning, reacting. It believes that if it can just figure everything out, it will finally feel safe. But real safety is not found in control. It is found in surrender. And surrender becomes possible when you enter stillness. It is in this space that the nervous system resets, the body begins to heal, and the energy field around you reorganizes into coherence. Stillness is not passive. It is one of the most active states of regeneration and alignment available to you. When you enter stillness intentionally, whether through meditation, conscious breathing, or simply being fully present in a moment, you begin to access layers of intelligence beyond the analytical mind. You begin to feel your own frequency instead of the world's. In that space, clarity rises not from effort but from presence. Ideas arrive effortlessly. Emotions dissolve without resistance. You shift from reacting to life to observing it, and from that observation, a new kind of power emerges, one that is grounded, stable, and deeply intuitive. Stillness is the gateway to the unknown. It is where the field of infinite potential becomes accessible. When you stop trying to force outcomes and instead tune into stillness, you step out of time. You step out of conditioning. You become aware of the space in which all change becomes possible. The ego loses its grip in stillness because it cannot survive where there is no noise to feed on. And what's left is something far more authentic. Your true self, not the one you've been told to be, but the one that simply is. Cultivating stillness does not require isolation. It only requires intention. It is a practice of turning inward, of quieting the outer world so that the inner world can be heard. Liberation is the process of freeing yourself from the chains of limitation, whether they be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. It is the act of stepping out of the conditioned ways of thinking, feeling, and acting that have been handed down to you by society, your family, and your own past. True liberation is not about escaping the world. It is about breaking free from the inner barriers that hold you in a repetitive, unconscious loop. It is a return to your natural state, to the awareness that you are far more than the roles you play or the labels you've accepted. For many, liberation feels like an impossible dream. The weight of fear, guilt, and doubt can feel so entrenched that it seems like the very fabric of who we are. But liberation is not about fighting these emotions or denying them. It is about recognizing that they are not who you are. They are simply energy in motion, patterns of thought and feeling that you have identified with for so long that you've forgotten they are not permanent, nor are they inherent to you. To be liberated is to become conscious of your own power. It is realizing that the life you have created so far is a result of the energy you've been emitting, the thoughts you've been believing, and the emotions you've been choosing. But once you see that, once you recognize that you can change your energetic signature, you are free to create a new reality. You no longer need to be enslaved by the past. You can choose to release old beliefs, to forgive, to let go of the anger or resentment you may have carried for years. You can decide, in any given moment, to choose a new thought, a new emotional state, a new pattern of behavior that serves your highest good. Liberation is the willingness to let go of attachments. It's not just letting go of things, it's letting go of the idea that you need things to define your worth or to feel complete. It's about realizing that peace, love, and joy are not outside of you. They are innate qualities that are already within, waiting to be accessed when you remove the clutter of limiting beliefs and old programming. In this way, liberation is a journey back to your truest self. It is not something you acquire, but something you remember. When you embrace the truth of who you are, beyond all the layers of conditioning, beyond the mind, and beyond the story, you experience true freedom. It is a freedom that cannot be taken from you, a state of being where you are no longer at the mercy of external circumstances, but the creator of your own experience. Integration is the process of bringing all aspects of yourself into harmony. It is the act of merging the different parts of your being, your mind, body, emotions, and spirit, into one cohesive whole. Often, we live in a fragmented state where we compartmentalize our lives, ignoring the connections between different aspects of who we are. The mind wants to control, the emotions react, and the body follows patterns set by the past. Integration, however, is about uniting these parts into a fluid, synchronized whole where every aspect of you works together in coherence and where your internal world aligns with the external one. For many, the journey of integration starts with awareness. You begin to notice where parts of you are out of sync, where you feel disconnected, where you react from old emotional wounds, where your mind is racing in different directions, or where your body is holding tension. These are the places where integration hasn't yet happened. But once you bring conscious awareness to these fragmented parts, you have the power to start healing and aligning them. Integration requires deep acceptance. It means recognizing that every part of you, even the parts you might judge or avoid, has a purpose. Every emotion, thought, and experience has shaped you into who you are today. To integrate is to honor all of those parts, not to suppress or deny them. It means embracing the shadow and the light equally, acknowledging your wounds as much as your strengths, and allowing the totality of your being to surface. It is only through full acceptance that true healing and integration can occur. When integration takes place, there is a natural flow that arises between your inner and outer worlds. You stop feeling torn in different directions or at war with yourself. The tension that comes from internal conflict begins to dissolve, and a new level of peace and clarity emerges. You stop living reactively and begin to live intentionally, with a sense of purpose that is grounded in your true self. Every decision, every action becomes a reflection of this wholeness as you move with greater ease and alignment. Integration is a lifelong process. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency in becoming whole. It's about realizing that you don't need to fix yourself. You need to recognize, honor, and accept the fullness of who you are. In that acceptance, you create space for transformation, growth, and the embodiment of your highest potential.